The search for Flight 370, it was the most expensive search in aviation history, and they found nothing. Do you want to take a guess on how much was spent on the search and the investigation of the Malaysian flight?
$50 million.
Keep going north.
$213 million.
Ooh, 213? No. It's actually $160 million was spent just searching for this plane.
And they found nothing. Are those taxpayer dollars, Kenny?
They're not our taxpayer dollars because it was in Asia. So search away. Let's jump into this week's episode. Connor, do you know what I find kind of annoying?
The fact that I just tried to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and I don't have any of the ingredients. There's only 3 ingredients. I don't have any of them.
Wait, what? You're still eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches?
Is there like an age you're supposed to stop?
Yeah, it's 12. You didn't get the memo?
You haven't had a peanut butter and jelly sandwich until the last time you were 12. I'm so sorry for you.
I'm not a child. You're still eating PB&Js? What?
Dude, you are missing out. Top tier, top 3 iconic sandwich.
Do you ever put bananas on them or two, or you just go straight classic?
Bananas and peanut butter and honey is a whole different sandwich.
Oh, real? Is that a Louisiana thing?
No. What? No.
All right. Anyway, so I was watching the news the other day, and it was the same thing over and over and over again. And I find our current news situation like very annoying. Boring. So basically how it works is, and the news is so like formulaic and repetitive, it's designed to scare you, right? But basically a story comes on the news goes absolutely overboard playing the story out, whether it's a shooting, a robbery, some other sob story. It's designed to make you upset. The news spins up, goes super hard, and then 48 hours, they'll cover something and it's completely forgotten about.
You're totally right. I can't believe you watched the news. This is news to me, but I'm assuming you're going somewhere with this. What is this about?
All right. So totally. So for today, I want to talk about one of the most famous missing planes. Part of this story almost seems like a plot out of the movies. Do you know where I'm going with this?
Are you talking about the one I think you're talking about?
Malaysia
Airlines Flight 370? All
right. What do you know about it?
Okay, well, conveniently for you, I recently learned about this, so I actually do know a lot. Okay, here's what I learned. Malaysian Airlines Flight 370 was an international passenger flight. It was operated by Malaysia Airlines, disappeared completely from radar on March 8th of 2014. And it's like resurfacing right now on the internet. TikTok's getting super excited about it, and it's 10 years later, which is insane. But while flying from Kuala Lumpur International Airport in Malaysia, I hope I said that right, to its planned destination, which was Beijing Capital International Airport in China. So the crew last communicated with air traffic control around 38 minutes after takeoff. See, I even know the specifics because I just read about it. 38 minutes after when the flight was over the South China Sea, and the plane was carrying 239 people. So 12 crew members, 227 passengers from 14 different countries. That's what I know.
That's pretty impressive, Connor. And all right, so that's the high level 30,000 foot view, if you will. But here's the interesting part. No one, not even 10 years later, really knows what happened to that plane. And get this, scary. The search for Flight 370, it was the most expensive search in aviation history, and they found nothing. In fact, the entire thing is still not put to bed, and we're going to get into that later. But do you want to take a guess on how much was spent on the search and the investigation of the Malaysian flight?
$50 million. All
right. Sweetheart.
$85 million.
Keep going north.
$213 million.
Ooh, 213? No. In fact, so you were a little bit low and then a little bit high. It's like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. The good stuff is right in the middle, right? So it's actually $160 million was spent just searching for this plane.
And they found nothing. Are those taxpayer dollars, Kenny?
They're not our taxpayer dollars because it was in Asia. So search away. But
all right, so what's the deal here? Like, what's the leading theory on what happened? Because I remember people hearing that, they mentioned pilot suicide a lot. And if my memory serves me right from what I was reading, the pilot very oddly called into the radio, like real out of nowhere and bizarre. And he said, "Good night, MH370." But
Creepy.
people don't buy the pilot suicide thing. People aren't here for that conspiracy theory. And supposedly there were there weren't a lot of signs of stress or anything like that. So the suicide doesn't really line up. It doesn't really make sense for the pilot himself.
Pilot suicide up until probably this week was still the leading theory so far. So I do want to go through what the leading theories are, what happened to the flight, and then go into the new one. So pilot suicide fits for some people based on the fact that the plane's communication systems were disabled and it flew for several hours on a course that took it away from land. So it just went out into the sea.
But couldn't communicate with it at all?
It was off of radar and the communication systems were down. So some experts believe that the pilot, Zahari Ahmed Shah, may have deliberately crashed the plane as part of a suicide pact. Again, there weren't a lot of signs of distress in his life, and it just kind of didn't fit for the people that knew him, supposedly. Now, the second leading theory, some people say it was a hijacking. Although this is possible, there's almost no evidence to support it. The plane's transponder was turned off, which would have made it difficult for hijackers to control the plane. And additionally, there weren't really any reports of suspicious activity on board the plane before it disappeared. The third one, and the one that is probably most likely to be covered up, but at the same time, it's the least likely theory, is that there was some kind of technical malfunction. Again, it's not likely, but it's possible. This plane was only 6 years old, and usually like a 6-year-old plane is very reliable. So me personally, I don't want to be on like a 30-year-old plane, and I don't want to be on a plane's first like 5 or 10 flights. That like 2 to 10 year mark, those planes are good. Like, they have a good maintenance record. They're tried and true, right? So these were the leading three theories, but a new theory has emerged.
Also, crashing from a plane crash from technical malfunction is one thing, but a plane just completely disappearing with that many people, come on. Okay, well, what does TikTok have to say about it? What do they think happened to the plane? Because I remember reading, no, this was a video, and it was like talking about how they think the CIA shot down the plane, which
I've seen this one. Yeah, I've seen the one where that there was some kind of cargo on the plane that the CIA had mixed feelings about and just shot down the plane, which would be insane. I feel like anytime that something bad happens, the CIA gets like blamed for it, maybe right or wrong. I mean, the CIA does do a lot of things around the world that maybe other countries don't look fondly upon, but like this the first seems thing I think like a far stretch.
When anything happens on the news, it's just, or like those houses randomly blowing up recently. Remember that video?
Oh,
it was like a nice suburban neighborhood, and then the house just explodes. CIA. Am I right?
Yeah.
There was a thumb drive in that house somewhere. That's what it was. They're trying to blow up the evidence.
Yeah, they couldn't just go in and grab the thumb drive. They needed to take out the entire house. But little do you know, the house had a safe and the thumb drive was in the safe. So the thumb drive is still alive. Act 2, they have to go in and get the thumb drive. They learned that the bomb didn't do the trick. Anyway,
it was in an explosion-proof case. Okay, yeah, sorry. Back to Malaysia Airlines Flight 370. So where were we? Yeah, CIA shot down the plane. Not reasonable.
So let's just say that one, Carrie Matheson and Saul, they have nothing to do with this. I think that you're going to love this, though. So I personally love when the news takes an old story and then recounts it. That's not exactly what happened here, but this new theory on what happened is going to bring this to light. I think we're going to play the video for our fellow travel nerds, but the premise, I'll give you the high level here. So supposedly there has been new leaked radar footage. So Connor, let's play the video and you can explain what's happening for the people who are not watching on YouTube or Spotify.
Something weird has just been discovered about the missing flight MH370. It happened a while ago. Many of you know it here, but this has just been found. Now, I'm no expert, but this is supposed to be some sort of satellite imagery of the plane. You can see it flying right here. This is the flight MH370. Now, you're going to see some crazy stuff start to happen. There's this object number one that starts circling the plane. All of a sudden, there is a second object and then a third object. You see them swirling in this like organized fashion around the plane. You can see the satellite image changing positions. And I'm literally at a loss for words. Like, what the heck? These things are circling the plane like they're trying to do something. And then all of a sudden, the plane is going to go poof and disappear. Look at it's just gone. What the heck is happening? Is this legit? Like, what the freak is happening?
The way that it zaps out is actually terrifying. Like, it's a straight up magician's poof. I don't really know how to like explain. I mean, we both know how I feel about aliens. That plane just zip zapped into a little alternate dimension, little alternate portal. The 277 or whatever it was, people, they're totally safe. They're fine. They're just in a parallel dimension, you guys. That's my theory.
So anyway, this video is making the rounds on TikTok and social media. And basically people are saying the reason why $160 million has been spent searching for this plane and basically has turned up empty is that aliens circled this plane. They created some kind of portal and they sucked it into another dimension or made it disappear. Now, on this podcast, we have, out of 57 episodes, we have a suspicious amount of episodes dedicated to aliens and the paranormal. And this is a travel podcast, but I
that
like
plane
this theory.
Traveled, dude. And also, everyone loves aliens. What's more interesting than aliens?
I know. And it's definitely ramping up. And then you see things like this and you're like, oh dear, what if aliens just zap this plane to like another dimension or another timeline or another world? Do you believe in any of that stuff?
I actually have the perfect conspiracy theory, of course, about aliens to tie this all together. Do you want to hear it?
Yeah,
okay.
Hit me.
So this one is batshit crazy. This is probably one of my favorites of all time. So there's a conspiracy theory that U.S. President Dwight D. Eisenhower signed a treaty with aliens in 1954 that allowed the aliens to do testing on humans. Okay?
What?
I'm not saying this is what happened here, but this is insane. So the treaty is said to have been signed at Holloman Air Force Base in New Mexico. Of course, it was New Mexico. And the theory is based on the testimony of several people, including like former government, former government officers, the UFO researchers. One of the most prominent proponents of the theory is Tim Good. This guy's legit. He's a British author and researcher who has written extensively about UFOs. So people in the space respect him. And Good claims that he's seen classified documents that support the existence of the treaty. He's telling people this is completely real. He also says he was interviewed by several people who claim to have witnessed the meeting between Eisenhower and the aliens. Where are the photos of that? Please, somebody find these, resurface them. But the theory's been, widely disputed. People are skeptical, of course. They argue there's no credible evidence to support it. I'm one of those people that doesn't need credible evidence. I'm so gullible. Just convince me of it. They point out that Good's documents have never been released to the public and that his witnesses are unreliable. Of course they do. Of course. In 1954, they weren't talking about aliens. They weren't having people admit that aliens are real in the Senate. Okay. And despite the lack of evidence, the theory continues to be popular, or like amongst the UFO community. People are still here for this. And it's been featured in several books, documentaries, movies, blah, blah, blah. But basically, the aliens were represented by a group of beings known as the Greys. We've heard of this before. You've heard
I've
of
heard
the
of the
Greys.
Greys.
Of
I've
course.
heard of the Greys.
Of course. The most recent Grey encounter in New Mexico as well. Hello, full circle. The treaty allowed the Greys to conduct research on humans. It's so scary. In exchange for sharing their advanced technology with the U.S. So Eisenhower's out here like, listen, dog, gives him like a daps up a Grey. He's like, sit down. I will absolutely give a few of our peeps over to you guys.
Be
And
like, yeah, you can take Susan and Karen. If you can give us fiber optic cables and Wi-Fi, Susan, Karen, and that whole cul-de-sac, forget those guys. Beam them up.
Dude, the whole book club gone overnight. The Greys were allowed to abduct humans for their experience, but they were required to submit the names of the abductees to a secret government committee known as the Majestic 12.
Such a good name. I mean, just the fact that it has a name and then the name has a number, anything that I hear with numbers, I automatically tend to believe it just a little bit more. So the fact that they're the Majestic 12, like, who are these 12 people? Is it really 12 people? Is it like the Big 10 and there's not really 10 schools? There's like more or less sometimes. So it would be super, super interesting. I mean, I kind of buy this theory, to be honest, because you hear so many stories about abductions and then you see this video where it plainly looks like there's three objects circling the plane in unison.
It doesn't look hokey either.
It doesn't look hokey. It just looks like the plane went into a portal and then disappeared.
Yeah. And also I just Googled the Majestic 12 because I was curious, like, if it was around the same time. No. Eisenhower, the president before Eisenhower was Truman, and he's the one who created the Majestic 12, also known as MJ-12. But it says that the organization is claimed to be an alleged secret committee of scientists, military leaders, and government officials formed in 1947. Think about how long we've been getting our like chains yanked by the government. They created a specific alien, secret club back in 1947. We didn't have cell phones, but we had alien cults, alien clubs. I just can't believe it. It's just so crazy.
Well, 1947 was the year of Roswell too, right?
Was it?
I believe so.
Full circle. But yeah, basically this story, I mean, you guys, we have no facts to present to you other than what we know about Flight 370, but it's really pretty insane to think about. And also, if you're listening to this, you will be remiss to not watch the video. You got to get your eyes on it. It starts with just see the plane, see it. It kind of looks like it's taking like a hard left. It looks like it's taking a not, that's not the route is what you're seeing in the video. And then one little orb appears, a second little orb appears, a third little orb appears, and then they're all equidistant, just circulating around the aircraft. It's pretty spooky.
And the spookiest part is where there's like a portal that pops up and then the thing just disappears. I mean, that piece of visual information, watching that makes me more likely to believe that these two things are not compatible, but they're copacetic, right? Like that the testing of humans and the abducting of humans was authorized by Eisenhower. So the fact that you threaded those two conspiracies, I feel like they fit perfectly together.
I think so too. It scares me to think that maybe those were just, maybe the aliens, the Greys, if you will, maybe they did submit a name list of abductees and it was just the whole flight. And then America was like, yeah, it's fine. Just, you submitted your paperwork. You're good to go.
Your paperwork checks out. It's super clean. Honestly, if I could get access to the MJ-12, I have a few people that I need to put up for abduction. I won't say names, but Connor, you probably know because we've talked about this person. So if you are listening and you're a fan of the pod and you're part of the MJ-12, just drop me an email. I'll give you 2 or 3 names. I'm not looking for any pat on the back, any money. I'll keep the secret forever, but I need to send you these names. The world will be a better place.
I wonder if it's really 12 people or if they just call it that to make people think that.
It's
Also-
probably 8. It's probably 8, and they just did 12 to kind of like throw off the scent. Kind of like, you throw off the scent for like a bloodhound. It's just 8.
Yeah, it's over here. Yeah, exactly. It's actually 8. I would love to interview the Majestic 12 if you guys feel like being on a pod that's alien friendly. We're here.
We're here.
We're here for it. We'll give you any updates if we see anything online because, like I said, it's circulating like crazy on social media right now, which I just love. I feel like alien content gets pushed to the side. Also, why are we talking about, like grocery store inflation and how much eggs cost on the news, but we're not talking about this? It's just so upsetting, honestly.
So upsetting.
So disappointing. All right, you guys. Well, thanks for listening. That was a fun episode. There's a lot of info. Bet you didn't know that I knew all that, huh?
No, you actually impressed me there.
Thank you. Thank you very much. If you guys have anything you want us to talk about, just email hello@travelnerds.co. Follow us on everything @travelnerdspod, and we'll see you next week. Later, nerds.